Hello again. My last video, Conversations with the Devil, has really inspired a lot of different things in my mind. Just really wanting to talk about the tactics and the strategies of the devil that he uses to destroy our lives or to just keep us from helping someone else. There's a lot to be said about that, and I'll probably be talking about that for a while. But right now, I feel very strongly that I just need to share something. So this is something that I wrote several years ago for a message I was giving to a group of teenagers. And I'm going to read it. So I'll be looking down a lot, and then after I read it, I'll talk about it for a second. So just know that I'm going to be looking down to read this. In a town not far from here, in July 1998, a young woman who shall remain nameless for now awakes from a restless slumber. Something had startled her, and she woke with a slight jump. She does a quick glance around, looking for what it might have been. After not seeing anything, she closes her eyes in an effort to return to where she had been. Sleep, it seems lately, is the only time that there is a break from the relentless pain in her soul. Unfortunately, sleep has been rare these past few months, and it seems that once again, sleep will evade her. She sits up on her bed, throwing her legs over the side. She's been crying for months, but realizes after a few moments that she isn't crying. She drags herself from her bed and stands frozen in front of the mirror. It strikes her that she is staring at a complete stranger. She then also realizes that she feels nothing. There wasn't the overwhelming pain that had been present for months. There was no guilt, no shame. This should bring relief, but it does not, because she also realizes that she does not feel peace or happiness. She just feels completely numb. She steps closer to the mirror in order to gaze into her own eyes, searching for signs of life. In horror, there is none to be found. It seems as if everything inside her is dead. She has become an empty shell. As she stares at herself, she remembers a time when she had goals, hopes, and dreams. She takes a moment to retrace her steps, trying to remember what brought her to this point. She again stares intently into her own eyes, trying to remember. She does recall many small steps along the way. Small steps of giving herself away to a cruel, heartless world, making small compromises here and there, until she no longer knew or even cared what was right or what was wrong. It just all looked the same. She has spent months in this unbearable pain from guilt and shame. She knew there was something wrong with this thing she had become, but had no clue how to fix it. It seems as though all the hurting and all the tears she had cried has washed away the last ounce of life that she had left. She stood in front of the mirror with no recognizable traits of the person that she had once been. Too much has been lost to the world, she heard herself say. It was at this point that she tried to make herself cry, because at least a tear would signify that there was still some sign of life remaining, but nothing came. The thought then enters her head that if her soul was dead, her body might as well join it in the grave. After allowing that thought to linger for too long, suicide seemed to be the only solution to the numbness that now overwhelmed her. Meanwhile, in the depths of hell, a celebration is taking place as the demons celebrate the success of the loss of yet another life. They had been planning this young woman's demise for years. Before she even made her way out of the womb, the battle plans were being written. Their original plan had been to kill her before she even drew her first breath, and they tried. But when that plan failed, a new one was devised. When she was 5 years old, they sent a monster to destroy her. They were smart enough to give him a trusting face, so they sent this monster in the form of an older cousin, in whom she had no fear. This monster stole her innocence in the form of sexual abuse. Through that event, they had been able to plant many seeds of hurt and doubt into her unprotected mind. These demons had been carefully nurturing those seeds for all these years until they had grown into very healthy plants. The resulting fruit they were most proud of was her new belief that she was only good for sex. They cheered themselves each time she entered into a new sexual encounter, giving away yet another piece of herself. until there was nothing left. Now they rejoiced at her emptiness and applauded themselves at their apparent victory. They are almost giddy with excitement as she opens the brand new box of sleeping pills into a pile on the floor. Evil grins cover their faces ear to ear as she grabs a bottle of liquor from the closet to wash the pills down. They were patting themselves on the back as she begins writing her goodbye letters to her whole family. In their minds, it's over, and they set to recording their latest victory in their record book. Then there is silence, as they begin to notice that something has gone terribly wrong. They had been so involved in their celebration that none of them noticed the moment she exchanged pen and paper for a Bible. How did this happen? They scream at each other. Now, instead of accolades, they were handing out blame. As the young woman had been about to swallow the pills, she felt an overwhelming need to open her Bible, though she didn't know why. When she opened it, it landed on the book of Matthew, and the verse 11:28 just seemed to jump off the page. She read the verse aloud. "Come to me, all who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest." As she read that verse, she realized just how weary she had become. And when she read in verse 29 that she could find rest for her weary soul, it was as if the floodgates of her soul had been opened. She was crying again, but for the first time in a very long time, they were not tears of pain. They were tears that were washing the pain away. She knew she would die someday, but today was not that day. The demons knew that they had lost this battle. They vowed to never leave her alone and to get it right the next time. They immediately sat down to begin planning the next attack. Now, obviously, I had added some little details in there for dramatic effect, but that's my story. That is a true story. All of those things happened to me. I was marked for destruction on the day that I was conceived, and so were you. We are literally fighting for our lives. Now, I know in the last video, I talked about how when you're tempted to do something that is uncharacteristic of something that is typically you, then you can pretty much assume that that's Satan coming at you or tempting you to do something. Well, survival, like wanting to survive and wanting to carry on, that is part of our natural makeup. So there is one thought that you can guarantee 100% of the time is Satan's thought, is the thought of suicide. If you are tempted to take your own life, I promise you that is not your thought. That is not God's thought. Satan nurtures hopelessness. And when you have come to that point of deciding to take your own life, you can't get more hopeless than that. And Satan will take advantage of that every time. So if suicide is something that you're thinking about, know that that is Satan's plan to keep you from your future victory. Now, I can tell you now, at this point in my life, looking at my life and looking at all of the wonderful things that have happened and my 2 grandchildren and all of these good things that I've experienced since that day, I can tell you it was a lie. The fact that I would never feel any different and I would never be able to come out of that, it's a lie. God has a plan for your life. Do not let Satan put that thought in there and you allow it to stay until you actually find yourself thinking that that's the only answer. There is more to your story than that. So do not give up. God has a plan for you, and it is beautiful. It is beautiful. Just know that it's going to maybe take a few steps to get there, but it's not over. My original plan had been to just kind of make this video and post it later, but I feel so strongly that maybe someone needs to hear that right now. There is always hope. Jeremiah 29:11 says that God has promised you hope and he has promised you a future. Don't let Satan steal that. with a lie that it won't ever get better and it won't ever change and you won't ever feel better. That is a tactic of Satan. And in the next several videos, that's what we're going to talk about, because he has so many tactics that he uses to destroy us. Don't let this be one. Don't let this be the one that destroys you and your family and your loved ones. Talk to someone if you're feeling that or if you're thinking about that. Don't let Satan steal your future victories. That's all. I'll talk to you next time.